Hey, welcome back to DIY Willy. One guess of what we're gonna work on today. We've got the 2011 Chevy Silverado back in the driveway today, and a couple weeks ago, in fact, about the time we were doing the spark plugs, we started noticing a lot of noise with the brakes, a lot of squealing, a lot of grinding and noise. So yeah, it's time for some brakes, I guess. So I picked up a set of rotors and pads and some hardware from Power Stop. I believe that's where it was. I've used them a lot lately. Normally what's on the truck right now is Duralast, but I picked up a set from Power Stop, and let's check those out right now. Here's the box. Forget my shadow. There's the box from Power Stop, and let's open her up and see what we got. So I've had good luck with these in the past, and get rid of all the packing. Comes with their extreme set of pads. I believe the hardware and everything is in here. Yeah, looks pretty good. Packaging is nice. There's the model number right there. Z36 truck and tow. Performance for life. Power Stop. Okay. And we've got 2 rotors. These are the rotors for the front only. I'm not doing the back this time. I've done the back recently. And if you know brakes, the back doesn't really go out that often so quickly. The fronts wear out faster. And these are the slotted and drilled rotors for that extra cooling ability. So now that we got to look at the parts, let's get on the truck, get those wheels taken apart. I've already got it up in the air and on jack stands just to make things go a little faster, but we're gonna get in there and get it apart. All right, so I've got a few tools out here that I think are what we're gonna need to get the job done. I picked this up when I was doing the Scion brakes. It really helped with the Toyota rear calipers, where you could have put these adapters in there and twist it in. The caliper has an emergency brake built into it, and you have to twist them back in to reset them. Also, it's got some nice things, rods to hold the calipers where you're doing the work, and of course the tools to compress the pistons back in. I've got a breaker bar or 2. This is the one that gave me the black eye, but we'll have both of them out ready to go, just in case there's something really tight and I can't get a torque wrench in there, or I can't get the impact wrench in there. I've got the wheel key socket, and the 22mm fits perfect on that right there. We got a big ratchet just for making things easier, and I've got my socket set that has a 19 and 18, which I believe is what we need to get the calipers off and the rotors off. So I guess I got no reason not to dive right into this and get this done. Want to get it wrapped up and go have some lunch. What do you say? All right, so I've got the first of the bolts out that hold the caliper. These were 19mm. Now we can just take the caliper off and hang it up to the side over here. So everything's off now. Caliper, I got the 18mm bolts out, and I've got the pads sitting over here. Now, they don't look that bad. I don't know why the brakes are making so much noise. But yeah, they got quite a bit of meat left on them. But since I have the new parts, I'll go ahead and change them. Now, these were Duralast GT rotors, and I mean, they've been doing good. The holes aren't, or the notches, or whatever you want to call those, weren't plugged up. Just a little bit of rust in them. But I mean, overall, I think they were still doing very good. A little bit, just barely any lip there. But since we got the new Power Stop brakes, we'll go ahead and change everything out. I wish I could have painted the caliper this time, but maybe another time. So yeah, let's get this rotor off. We'll get the new rotor cleaned up and put on and start putting it back together. Been a minute since I've done these front brakes. I forgot that there was a T30 Torx screw in there holding the rotor on. So once you remove that T30 little bolt, then the rotor comes right off. Before you go putting the new parts on, you want to make sure you clean them really good. Clean all around, everywhere with the wire brush, and then rinse it off or use a little bit of air to blow it, the dust off. But you want to clean the studs. You want to clean all the everywhere that the new brake rotor makes contact. That way it'll be even against the bearing and the I don't know which hub, I guess you call this. You don't want it to be offset in any direction. You want it to sit nice and flat against that. So just take your wire brush, clean all the way around it, take your time, make sure it's good and clean, blow it off, or use a little brake cleaner and dust it off, and put the new parts. Now the new rotor, if you got this kit from Power Stop, if you don't have a slotted or drilled rotor, then it really doesn't make a difference. But you got to make sure you get the one that says, if you're on the driver's side, make sure you get the one that says driver's side right there, because that'll put the slots in the right direction, and the drill too. And we want to get this, take a little brake clean, and get the coating off this that preserves it and keeps it from rusting while it's in storage. And make sure you wipe both sides really good with plenty of brake clean, and then reinstall it, put the T30 screw back in, and time to work on the brakes on the pads. Okay, I've sprayed it down, brake clean, and it dries off fast. It'll evaporate, but just give it a good wipe, get inside your slots, you know, make sure everything's good and clean. There we go. Now we're ready to put it on. Make sure you line up one of these holes with the one on the rotor or on the hub. So I've got the new guides on there, and we want to make sure that these also move freely. They don't, you know, they don't want to be, you don't want them to be stuck. They can just pull out pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and pull them out, use a rag to clean them up, and then re-grease them. I'm just going to use some high temp grease here and put them back in just to make them like new again. Then I have the grease that came with the Power Stop brakes, and on the back they show everywhere that needs grease, you know, everywhere they put the little lubricant. But I'll always put it on the pads and then slip the pads in here where they go, and then we'll put some on the outside, as I'll show you later. But right now I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get these off, clean them up, and put new grease on them, stick them in, and we'll be ready to move on to the pad installation. So I've got the inner pad in already. I'm going to do the outer pad. It's hard to do this with one hand, but I'll take a little bit of grease on my finger, a little more than that, and just place it and grease up where the pad is going to slide on the guides. Do this on both ends, just like this, and then you can snap the pads back inside. Now make sure you do not get any grease on this surface. That's your friction surface, and you want to keep that as free and clean as you can. So I'm going to take this pad now, take it and fit it in. Again, doing this with one hand is something else. And just slip it in like that. There we go. Now we can push the pistons in on the caliper, and yeah, we're done on this side. Once you remount the caliper, get rid of all the straps. As I was saying, these pads weren't that bad. There's a lot of meat left on these pads. I'm not sure why this thing was making so much noise. That's all right. We got new stuff, and we'll be good now for quite a while. Now with both pistons pushed back in, I'm ready to reinstall the caliper on the new pads and rotor. I'm going to go ahead and put a little grease on both sides where the pistons and things move, and we'll mount that caliper up. So checking it out in here, The caliper bracket bolts, which are the 18mm bolts, this one and this one, get torqued to about 100 foot-pounds. The one on the caliper mounting bracket, the one on the slide bolts that we re-greased and lubricated, they get torqued to about 74, 75 foot-pounds. So yeah, I got torque wrench set there, and they're good for the 74 foot-pounds. Now, it's not often you see Willy using a torque wrench. Usually I do it by hand, but I just wanted to show this time me using a torque wrench. I know I show it a lot when I'm building my engines, but for this type of work, I don't usually use a torque wrench. It's easy to get usually it's easy to get the amount of torque on it by hand. So you saw I've got about 100 foot-pounds, 100 to 129 foot-pounds on the caliper, on the bracket, the big 18mm, and then 74 on the caliper mounting the slide bolts themselves. So we got that all torqued. We're ready to give it one more clean all the way around. We'll put some anti-seize on the threads. We'll put the wheel back on and call the driver's side done. It turned out really good. We still need to check the fluid levels and bleed them if necessary. I'm by myself today, so I'll probably have to bleed them with the vacuum pump and try to pull the fluid through and the bubbles out that way, keeping an eye on the fluid level in the reservoir. So we'll see what we can do with that, and we're gonna go do the passenger side now, and we'll be done with this project. So I've got the passenger side all done now. Everything's greased up, torqued up, tightened up, whatever you want to call it up. I've got the bottle here hooked up on the bleeder valve, and I'm waiting on some assistance to help me bleed them. And we'll get both sides bled, starting with the passenger side, and then we'll just do the driver's side real quick on the other side. Now, normally this wouldn't be necessary unless you've replace the brake line or open the brake system somewhere where air may have gotten in, but I tried to use my vacuum pump to pull a little fluid through here, and well, some air bubbles I think got inside. So I want to go ahead and bleed them so that I don't have air in the system and everything works great. So I'm just waiting up for some help to do that. We'll knock it out and we'll put the wheels back on and call it done. All right, there's a look at all the stuff I used to get the job done. The T30, the 18 and 19mm sockets. This was the big socket that fit my key to my lug nuts, torque wrench. Remember, we torqued the brake caliper mounting bracket to 100 foot-pounds, and then the brake caliper itself to 74 foot-pounds. We got the different sockets, and yeah, the breaker bar. There are some instructions here on that PowerStop gives you to bed in the brakes. This is very important to do. I don't know if you want to look at that, pause it, whatever, but it's very important to follow this process to bed in the brakes, so the brakes are very effective and they work good for a long period. The truck is ready to go. Wheels are on the ground. Lug nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds on both sides, and probably take it for a drive. A couple of days later, come back and recheck the torque on the lug nuts again at 100 foot-pounds. The job is done. It's easy job to do. Don't be afraid to get in there and try it yourself. It just takes a few specific tools, you know, stuff that people commonly have. You know, good socket set, a couple good wrenches and a torque wrench, and you're good. You know, the brakes are good. The kit that I bought came with the grease and the hardware and everything. If you buy them separate, like at some of the other auto parts places, you have to buy the hardware kit separate and the grease separate, those kinds of things. But this kit, this PowerStop kit, comes complete with everything, and plus, so, you know, it's got extra parts in there. I really like that kit. This will be the third vehicle I put it on, and the brakes have worked great for all the vehicles so far. So the Frontier, my 2008, uses EBC brakes and rotors, and then the other Frontier uses the PowerStop. The Mazda we did used PowerStop, and now the Silverado has PowerStop. So I like the kits. They're very complete. They fit well, and they seem to work really good. So I'm not sponsored by PowerStop, but I like their parts, and I'll use them. And I'm gonna wrap this video up right here. Take the truck for a drive, do the bed in process, and call it a day. I had time to clean up and grab some lunch. I'm hungry. So give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And always come back with DIY Willy for the Silverado, the mini bikes, the Baja, the Frontiers, the Samurai. You know, we all got it. We got all of it here. And like having everybody stop by. I see a lot of people watching the videos, but they're not subscribed. If you can, just please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. It really helps out with the algorithm and getting the videos seen by more. This video wasn't too in-depth. I used to do a lot more in-depth how-to videos. I don't do that anymore. But I showed you what I do, and I talked about the torque specs and the work. So yeah, until the next time, I'll see you later. Bye.